And guess what this liberal would be all about? This liberal will be all about socializing, would be about basically taking over and the government running all of your companies.
Because we have been guided by a Republican administration who believes in this simplistic notion that people who have wealth are entitled to keep it, and they have an antipathy towards the means of redistributing wealth.
Commander and great helmsman Chairman Mao.
Of all the horror that communism has brought to the world, perhaps the worst was brought to us by Mao Zedong.
When I was in China, we were all told Mao was like our God. When we wanted to say what I say is absolutely true, we would say, I swear to Chairman Mao.
Mao used his power to crush the Chinese people. The majority of his crimes came in two distinct waves.
From 1959 to 1961 was the so-called Great Leap Forward, which was actually a gigantic leap backwards in which he tried to collectivize and communize agriculture. And they came to him after the first year and they said, well, Chairman, 5 million people have died of famine. And he said, no matter, keep going. And the second year they came back and they said 10 million Chinese have died. He said, no matter, continue. The third year, 20 million Chinese have died. And he said finally, well, perhaps this is not the best idea that I've ever had.
And then the third lesson and tip actually come from two of my favorite political philosophers, Mao Zedong and Mother Teresa, not often coupled with each other, but the two people that I turn to most.
Are you then calling for the redistribution of wealth in society?
Absolutely. Without any hesitation. That's what the gospel is.
Generally speaking, we get the joke. We know that the free market is nonsense. We kind of agree with Mao that political power comes largely from the barrel of a gun.
Workers of the world unite. It's not just a slogan anymore, it's a way we're going to have to do our work.
So to get our feet on solid ground in the future, we must first walk through the past with our eyes wide open.
Government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem.
That's modern conservatism in a nutshell. Yet, we're always told that Nazi Germany, who controlled every aspect of its citizens' lives, was somehow right-wing. Is that true? Or is it an attempt to distract from other much more inconvenient similarities?
His social agenda was for expanding universal access to health care. It was for expanding access to education. It was for cradle-to-grave welfare state. It was for attacking big business and high finance. But he embraced socialism entirely. He embraced the idea of racial solidarity, of socialism for one race.
Even in Mein Kampf, he acknowledged that the movements were so close that if not for the focus on race, his National Socialist movement would really do nothing more than compete with Marxism on its own ground.
And so I think the debate for the new generations, instead of capitalism or socialism, is we're going to have both, and then which proportion of each should we have in order to make this all work? It's a much more sensible debate.
But the dream was not to put one black family in the White House. The dream was to make everything equal in everybody's house.
So I want to know what is it that a socialist considers himself or herself committed to? Or if what you mean by economic equality is floors for everybody and ceilings for everybody? Well, floors, absolutely. Ceilings, probably. You have a consumption tax.
In one of the communist chief and dictator of 160 million Russians.
Today, most have forgotten the scale of the Soviet atrocities, particularly what may have been their most horrific. It began long before Hitler's horror was revealed. Popular uprising had become a problem in the Ukraine. Their spirit of individualism threatened the grand design of Moscow. Stalin decided to take steps and correct the problem.
The objective was to put the Ukrainians on their knees.
Stalin forced peasants to give up their farms under the banner of collectivization.
And it is the peasants who are the army of nationalism. So what do? You got to crush them.
Наприклад, у моєї дружини дідусь, який у 33-му році помер, був арештований за те, що він не захотів йти в колгосп. Просидів у тюрмі. Поки він сидів у тюрмі, його дружину змусили, щоб вона написала документ про розлучення. Бо в тебе дід приходить з тюрми, в його нема дружини, вона відлучена. Немає можливості зустрітися з дітьми, в його нема хати, в його нема землі, в його нема нічого. Це таких історій мільйони.
Stalin took everything. Their independence, their livelihoods, and even their food.
14,000 men and boys were executed in Cuba during the 1960s. He said that his dream was to become a killing machine. He said to his revolutionary comrades, if they weren't sure of someone's loyalty, if in doubt, kill him. These are the realities that we need to understand about Che. You could probably call him clinically a sadist.
And I think when you spread the wealth around, it's good for it.
I think the tragedies of the civil rights movement was because the civil rights movement became so court-focused. I think that there was a tendency to lose track of the political and community organizing and activities on the ground that are able to put together the actual coalitions of power through which you bring about redistributive change. And in some ways we still suffer from that.